August 12, 1997. A scorching Tuesday afternoon in northern Arizona. 12 people walk single file into a crack in the desert floor. Lower Antelope Canyon. Navajo sandstone glows orange high above them. The sky is a pale ribbon, impossibly far. The path narrows to 3 feet in places. And then, the sound. A low guttural roar building, echoing off the sculpted walls. No rain falls here. Not a drop. The sky over their heads is clear. Within minutes, 11 of these 12 people will be dead. One will be spat out alive, a quarter of a mile away. The walls of this slot canyon are one of the most photographed surfaces on Earth. Smooth, flowing, curving inward until the sky is a seam of light. At the floor, the passage can pinch to 3 feet, then open to 20. It is beautiful. It is also a machine, and it has one function. Those polished walls are a record. Every curve, every fluid line and every photograph ever taken here was scoured out by a flash flood. Nothing else made them. The canyon is not decorated by water, it is excavated by it. People pay to walk inside a drain. The mechanism is simple, and it is merciless. Above the slot lies a vast basin of high desert plateau, bare rock and hardpan, almost nothing that can absorb water. Whatever falls anywhere in that catchment does not soak in. It runs. Every wash, every shallow channel in that landscape tilts toward the same narrow slot, and everything that enters has to leave through a gap you can touch both sides of, which means the thing that kills you here does not announce itself. Rain does not have to fall on you. It does not have to fall within sight of you. You can be standing in dry sand under a blue sky at the exact moment the water that will kill you is already moving. In 1997, there was no warning system in that canyon. No weather radio at the entrance. No siren. No horn. It was Navajo tribal parkland, a fee booth, and a footpath. And getting down into the slot meant climbing amateur-built wooden ladders, wedged into the rock by hand, never engineered to hold against a torrent. And that summer, the plateau was soaked. El Niño had loaded the season. Storms threatened almost daily. Parts of the region were taking close to an inch of rain in a day, in country that averages around 9 inches in a year. The ground had stopped pretending to absorb anything weeks earlier. 11 visitors on a Trek America tour, the kind of trip that moves young European travelers through the American Southwest on a fixed schedule of parks and photo stops, and their guide. Francisco Quintana, 28 years old. Everyone calls him Pancho. 7 of the tourists are French. 2 are American. 1 is British. 1 is Swedish. Beyond those nationalities and 3 names, Paul Lohr, Anita Lohr, Beatrice Aline, the public record keeps almost nothing of them. 11 people are about to become a number in a news bulletin, and that erasure is part of what happened here. It is early afternoon. The heat on the rim is brutal, well over 100 degrees, the kind of heat that makes the shade of a slot canyon the whole point of the visit. Down in the crack it is cool and shadowed and quiet, the light coming off the walls in bands of orange and violet. They descend single file, one wooden rung at a time. Above them the sky is a narrow band of clear, brilliant blue. Miles upstream, in the basin that feeds this canyon, a thunderstorm is already emptying itself into the wash. Accounts differ on how far away it was, 7 miles, 15, 17, some say 30. Nobody in the canyon can see it, nobody in the canyon can hear it, nobody at the fee booth has any way to know it exists. By around 3:30, calls start coming in from the roads. Washouts on Route 98, water crossing the highway where there was no water an hour before. That water has somewhere to go, and it is already going there, and it is moving faster than 12 people in a stone corridor can walk. The sound comes first. It arrives down the canyon ahead of everything else. A roar with nothing visible to explain it, bouncing off walls that curve and double back so that it seems to come from everywhere at once, from ahead and behind at the same time. In a slot canyon, you cannot see more than a few meters in either direction. You hear the thing that is coming long before you can see it, and knowing does not help, because in the seconds while they are still trying to understand what they are hearing, the geometry of the place has already decided the outcome. The slot is 3 feet wide in places. The walls are sandstone polished by centuries of exactly this event. No handholds, no ledges, nothing that a hand or a boot can hold. They rise tens of feet to a sky that is a seam. There are no side exits, there is no high ground within reach. There is one way out of this canyon, and it is the wooden ladders behind them, and the water reaches those first, then the flood itself, not clear water. A thick, opaque surge the consistency of chocolate milk, dense with sand ground off the plateau, carrying driftwood, whole logs and boulders inside it. In the open wash above the slot, it is reported 10 feet deep and spread wide, and then the ground narrows, and all of that volume has to fit through a gap the width of a doorway. It cannot spread, so it does the only thing left. It accelerates, and it climbs the walls. What that means in physical terms is why nobody in that canyon had a chance. Moving water weighs about a ton per cubic meter. Loaded with sand and rock, it weighs more, and it does not behave like water anymore. It behaves like wet concrete moving at the speed of a car. In a slot canyon, it does not flow past you. It fills the space you are standing in, floor to well above head height, in seconds, carrying timber and stone with it. There is no swimming in that. There is no bracing against it. There is only what the canyon decides to do with you, and the canyon is shaped to move everything in it downstream. Pancho Quintana goes under. He is pinned, briefly, caught in an eddy between rock formations while the flood pours over him. And then he does the one thing that works, the thing he knows from whitewater. He gets on his back. Feet downstream, head upstream, body flat on the surface of a river made of sand and wood and broken rock. He stops fighting the canyon and lets it carry him. It carries him through the constriction of the slot and throws him over a drop. He comes to rest on a ledge, roughly a quarter of a mile from where the surge first hit him, at a point where the flood is throwing spray 30 feet into the air. He is battered. He is breathing. He drags himself higher onto the rock and holds on. He is alive. He is the only one behind him. And below him, the water keeps running through Lower Antelope Canyon. It runs through the evening. It runs through the night. It does not stop until around 4 o'clock the next morning. For 12 hours after the last person in that canyon was alive, the flood keeps working the walls, doing on that afternoon exactly what it has been doing for thousands of years. When searchers finally get into the canyon, the floor has been rewritten. The ladders are gone, not broken, gone. Debris is jammed high on the walls. Logs and branches wedged into the sandstone far above head height. A stain and a tide line marking exactly how deep the water ran through a passage. A person could touch both sides of it. Anyone who saw that line understood immediately that nobody caught inside had a survivable position. The search runs about a week. Navajo Nation police, dozens of local volunteers. Cadaver dogs working the drainages downstream. Within 2 days, 167 media representatives are on the scene, a large share of them French, because 7 of the dead are French, and in France this is front-page news. The recoveries come in a specific and terrible order. One body is found in a side drainage of the canyon itself, Beatrice Aline, 20 years old, French. 8 more are recovered from Lake Powell, roughly 6 miles downstream, because that is where this canyon goes. The slot drains to the lake, and the flood carried them the entire distance, through the corridor and out the far end and into open water, 6 miles from where they were standing when the sound started. Paul and Anita Lohr are among the documented dead, and 2 of the 11 are never found at all. Pancho Quintana comes off that ledge as the only living member of a party of 12. In the years afterwards, he has spoken publicly about what that did to him, the guilt, the sense of responsibility, the anger, and a long stretch of his life spent trying to account for 11 people he took into a canyon on a clear afternoon. What happened next to the canyon is the part most retellings skip, and it is the part that matters. The wooden ladders were replaced with steel systems bolted directly into the stone. Deployable cargo nets were fixed at the top of the canyon, so that anything or anyone swept through has something in the way. A NOAA weather radio was installed at the fee booth, tuned to conditions in a basin that visitors will never see, along with an alarm horn that can be heard from inside the slot. Access became guided tour only, in timed groups with Navajo Nation guides trained to watch what the weather is doing upstream rather than overhead. Every one of those measures exists for the same reason, because of what a slot canyon does with water that fell somewhere else, and not one of them existed on August 12, 1997. They did not end the risk on July 30, 2010. 2 flash floods came through Upper Antelope Canyon and stranded tourists on a ledge. Several people were injured. A woman and her 9-year-old son were washed downstream. That time, nobody died, which is, in the end, the entire difference between a canyon with a horn at the entrance and a canyon without one, and then the part that is hardest to sit with. The flood made this place famous. The coverage was massive, the images went everywhere, and visitor numbers did not fall, they climbed. Today, hundreds of thousands of people a year queue in the heat to walk through the exact mechanism that killed 11 of them, and most of them will never hear the date. Pancho Quintana wrote a book about it. He called it Breathe for Me. By his own account, after years he arrived at something like peace. 2 people who walked into Lower Antelope Canyon on the afternoon of August 12, 1997 are still out there, somewhere in the 6 miles between the slot and the lake, and every curve and every photograph of that canyon, the postcards, the wallpapers, the covers of the travel brochures, the most photographed rock in the American Southwest, was cut by a flood exactly like the one that took them. The canyon is not beautiful in spite of the water, it is beautiful because of it.